stays tight. Even airplane travel. Moisture air. Sorry, I messed it up. All the time, right?
Yeah.
So go ne kini dagong yang cema di sama ola yoro rembashin de sha kini shram yang di thoche ya yoro ina di chikare di thoche ko gona tini de to go gona so good morning, everyone. We will do the opening prayers on page 2 of the prayer book, and twice in English, once in Chinese. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, sun and moon. This mandala is visualized as a Buddha field. By this offering, may all sentient beings enjoy the pure realms. By homage, offerings, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, beseeching, the small merit which I have gathered, I share for the benefit of all. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the two vehicles and their combination according to the dispositions and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings.
Good morning. Then that got to Kato Mando Shagin, then that got on Yawan Champions okay, that Konake Karsevore, poetry, scenery, Lamrem, the Chatawa, Gungondone, Jo, Chaja Chambo, Zopa Chambo, Uma Chambo, Teniti Hula. The Kixer, Fondon, La Sobekita,
Mondo Chatang Mondo down. Chatang Konga Mondo down.
Or that Benangondo, Teroa, Yaman, Yamponzo Kongi, Tandata, Song, Dulce Song, Tap poetry scenario, Dulce Song, Gore, Dulce Song, Gortinala, Carrioris, Huvinan, Jigchi Lodo, Namba Hedan, Nankangondo, Tinayar Sondi Tine, Chancho Sem, Yedam Yala, Tine Tagana Yeke, Tine, Chaka Chembo, Uma Chembo, Zopa Chembo, Tine Mars on the Tine, Jigato Tazolita, Lamyam Chibi Gabla, Nick Kixer, Wondons on the Tine. Tindike Tacha Tama, Tindiji Huimbari, Tindinity, Matsu Theatre Tinima, Kazan Yunki, Jetinima Huins.
So Dumbledore Yagamana.
I'm on this job, and this is what
So picking up where we left off yesterday, so we are using as our source material this song, this Vajra song by Gyalwang Rinchen Phuntsok, which is like, it's a like his Vajra speech or his poetry that really contains all that is needed for anyone to traverse like the entirety of the path to awakening. So beginning with, as we went over yesterday, the outer ngundro of the four thoughts that turn the mind. Likewise, then there is contained the inner ngundro, but sort of subsumed particularly into the practice of bodhicitta, the yidam, deity, and Guru Yoga, and then it gets into a lot of detail regarding the practices. The main practice of Mahamudra, Madhyamaka, Dzogchen, kind of as an inseparability, and how to approach the practice, how to identify, what is correct practice, how to clear away hindrances and obstacles, how to enhance realization, and so forth. So everything, it's a really kind of complete and very rich Vajra song.
That the Tandangan, the Tandaka Sabatella, Chaja Chimbodis, Chaja Chimbotella, Chengdang Tunde, Kunde, Chaji Longs.
So first, there's this next line where we left off. So this is referring to Mahamudra. So it says the seal, and so the seal in Tibetan, the word for seal is chaja, right? Which is the mudra. So maha is great, or maha is chimbo, and then chaja is mudra. So maha mudra is what is implied here with chaja, which literally means seal. So the seal of the expanse is freedom from the bondage and liberation of samsara and nirvana.
That Chaja Chimbo, that Chaja Chimbo, Dina, let's say Koranda, take Jima or your mother. Tell a Karsena, Chengdang Tunde, Konde Chaja said, Tesonda, Chingba, Hula, Trua, Tetome, Zoneta, not on Cheng de Akin, Yomo, but Cheng de one, take Tambina, then go torn over this. In a Toria said, Young Cheng de at Palme, so Tinian Toria said, you go your mother's.
So Ching Meba, so yeah, okay.
Chingba,
got it. So this is also really aligned with the language of Mahamudra. So for instance, in the Ganges Mahamudra, there's the line that says, in releasing the bondage, or in releasing bondage and releasing the fetters, there is no doubt about release. There's no doubt regarding liberation. And so what is being implied here is that it is in the releasing of the fetters itself that there is liberation. So it's not that there's, the releasing of the fetters and then or bondage, and then liberation is achieved, but the releasing of the bondage itself, the releasing of the fetters itself is liberation.
다 자자 첨부 중 다가서 대송벌에 자자 첨부 되라 현에 랍든데 항통게 송래다 현에 담보 자자 첨부 또버려 지발라 현에 고래 송래.
And so also in the practice of Mahamudra, as it is said, the perfectly developed calm abiding, or kind of the full refinement of shamatha or calm abiding, is vipassana or insight. So insight arises from calm abiding, from shamatha. So the first stage of Mahamudra is practicing shamatha.
다샤디 현에 태양 네 한번 고조네 템바니르야 해고네 다 루템바니르야 라소베고네 템바니르야 헬레치 되네 야야안도나 되네 가서 현에 태양 되네 현에 들란 생제당 세미스 이용고요래 다 생제들라 되네 현에 땡젠당 데미스 that is love and such a hakogro.
Yeah, Degenerate. Then it's in Mela, the lung.
Oh, that danger tang de me or that danger tang de me de la, Mato Dango, Tambo de Carsina, same number of Chimbu, you be gala, Jacapto Koran, Mato Gomja to be your mother. That Jetan the danger chardy or Carsina to the Carsegore, the Tembania Hetan, Semi Hetan. 소라 소바데 덴첸이 테네야 소메타가 저 대가나 인가 저 덴첸 곰자베 가라 덴제 샤로와 덴텔라 미파디네 곰데야텔라 테네 헨네 덴첸 슬라부타타 와
then tenme nangla lungche dang lungme.
Okay.
So to practice calm abiding, we have first, actually, this begins with the practice of the four foundations of mindfulness. So mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of sensation or vedana, feeling, mindfulness of mind, and mindfulness of phenomena. And so as then we go through the practice of the four foundations of mindfulness, and then one practices shamatha, which there's shamatha with characteristics and shamatha without characteristics. And then within shamatha with characteristics, you have shamatha with support and shamatha without support, and then you have further divisions within that as well. So first, then you have shamatha with a support involves using an object. So we use an object to collect or to concentrate the attention, the awareness, the mind. And so that becomes the basis. And then that practice of working with more and more subtle or more and more refined objects then eventually leads into, shamatha without a support. And then eventually into...
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that is. Tene ta hine tela ta temi zundu ta temewa ta jinga to hine ke sem tela jik tezong bare ta sem ke ten tela tene karma je do tene jik karma ni do tene ya chona karma nga do tene dile ten tela ne to guyona tene ten go mare zong ta tema go du tene ngato ta hine lungchen de chi yu temewa ten khayang mewa chi yine yang tharung ti support go go yore support go du 되네 지금 가서 롱 중중 내송 송이 되네 롱 베리 파파 롱 나라 뭐바 제삼노 땅 삼노 센테리다 되네 나르피스 네바 카시니오나 텔라 땅 되네 첼라 땅 되네 치그레스 이나 the most important part categories 는 object labdu object 베나 tangi object labro object 요베 갑라 ngato object la mikten zam sombare mikpe ten zam song pena nge ki mikten de dorje ro chigi yona ta dorje do mikten thindi je ma to o dorje de kande do dorje de sota kande do jupja kande do thindi zam no khang ta yo mare sko mikten zam thega na ye ke ya tananga to long jungjung ne samchi long ina ko long te ko ngo ba ko mikten zam ma to ta long ma tang ki do ta ti ste ki do thine chlo la ta song song thine go mare is ti na ko ya nam tho lang go ba nam tho de ya nam tho ma cha ya ki nam tho me wa cha ya ki chi de la ya nam tho ya lang go ba o ti ni thang bo nga so sem go re ta
Wait, gande namto so the pena sim namto me pe cha ne dini yang cha namto lango gare sungyo re.
mare
Are oh okay dini gare.
ta ten te las wa ten khar chi go na object thina da long ina ro wa o ta long yung go do long ne
Yeah,
go
they
do
sama koso.
tene long tang go do thindi ji xiu qianbo samna nam to cha do ge nam to cha ge ta de la ten zang song de ten zang ko ji ten zang ma to ge ti long xiu ji ya do ma do thindi cha ko ma ten zang sa hine ne ko sem ne go go wa sem de ko ya nam to de ya lang ju ya yo ma ta nga zo ta nga long song do ji thindi do samna ko nam to cha do o ta long disney ge do o ta long chile tang ge do thindi zam de na thindi yang ko nam tho ya arise lang bu yo des ta te ma lang wa chi te do ji nam tho ti khar se na ta nang ga zo pen do cha kha bi na te ri da ko chen do wi na li hi yo wa ten do ko ji pa jong do yo na nam tho de da cham sang ga zo nam tho de jong do go re ta kha ring ha ko ma re sa kon dis hi ne yo wa no som tang re ya nam tho kha sa kha lap cha ro wa thi kap la ta hi ne tang ge ten chen yin na ri 다 롱chen 이나리 오 텐디 갑라테네 소양 남도데 땡텔라 테네 섬노지 땅지로와 다 롱섬 땅나 당가 롱 송도 섬노 땅나 단지 남도 메와 차로도 오 제가 나이 신의 땡첸로 차샤웨나 신의 땡텔로 오다 다 남도로 송도 섬도 야오 데 람상한테 오 텔라 다 도르지엔도 테네 다 오브젝트 같이 인데그로와 오 테네 섬 땅고데스
So then when we practice, so when first using an object in shamatha, so whatever, there are different objects that can be used, but essentially there's an object that you're using to rest your awareness on, to rest your attention upon. And when, with the coarser objects, you're able, or what they just refer to as object, because actually breath or wind falls into the category of without an object. But when you're using an object other than breath, like a coarser object, as your focus in meditation, and then when you're able to remain totally connected with your object without becoming distracted for like at least 5 minutes at least, that you're really stably present and the mind is not, doesn't leave from that, the stability of staying on its object, then you can move to meditation without a support, the first part of which, or the first stage of which, is using the breath as the object. And so when we're using the breath and we're just using it as a touch point for our attention, for our awareness, we're not thinking about the breath. And he said actually it's the same too if when you're using an object, like when before the breath, if you're using an object, say like if you're using this, and he held up the vajra, the brass vajra, and said, if that's your object and you're resting your gaze and your attention on that object, you're just touching your attention there. You're just resting. It's just a basis for your attention to rest on. You're not getting involved with it at all. Like you're not thinking about it. You're not sort of analyzing, oh, well, what is my mind doing now? And how is it staying on the Vajra? And what is this, like, what is it made of? And it looks like this, and it has this shape. So you're not getting carried away by thoughts about your object. And it's the same way with the breath too. The breath is just a reference point for your attention to remain present with the breath. So you're just lightly there with the breath. You're lightly there with the out breath. You're lightly there. You're there with the in-breath, but you're not analyzing what's happening with the breath. You're not kind of getting caught up in, is this how it's supposed to be done and what's happening here? And you're not creating more thoughts based on this process of meditation, because what we're doing is we're stilling the thoughts. We're isolating our mind from the habit of thinking so that we're just resting. And we don't want to be getting carried away by the ordinary patterns of conceptualization, but just remaining with the object. It's just a point of reference for us to place our attention upon, and that isn't stimulating thoughts. And then, of course, what inevitably happens is that we do get carried away by thoughts. We get carried away by thoughts, and we kind of wake up in the middle of thoughts in which we've already been taken away from our object, and the mind's already outside and going somewhere. And so then where the object is what pulls our attention back. So when we find that we've become distracted or the mind is slipped out, that we pull it back to we direct it once again to our object, so that eventually, those moments of losing mindfulness and those moments of becoming distracted by thought become less and less until it's kind of gone entirely. So then, having worked for some time with in the category of shamatha without support, but using the breath or with the breath, then we release the object of the breath, and so then we're in shamatha without support and without the breath. And in this method of shamatha, there's no object at all. It's just awareness. So we're not resting our attention in any other object other than attention itself. And so that then moves us into shamatha without characteristics. And then in shamatha without characteristics, you have the methods of focusing, or sometimes, focusing, I think this is the best translation, and relaxing. So we're employing these two functions of focus and release or relaxation.
다 샘 당보 샘 가서 내 약 탑시리 다 샘네 차회 qabla 다 쪼니 용요레스 대 쪼니데 가리여서나 정화다 고바스 용요레 다 삼령 가서 다 샘도마 내와 대가랑 다 디스니도 코노와 다 텔라 탑시요레스 니 그 당보디 탑데 가르세나 정화텔라 되네 직수고지고 차원도 지디니도 코도 지고레 이네 니데 I don't know. So here I go. You have come to. When I was going to Jaguna.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Inanga that Jurumbo Gom Jankaina, Bana, Jurumbo Gom Jaguna, Tambo the Nima, this Chenwa, Nima Kondo Yuna, Telatene, Nit Karayo Mares. Koni the Kona Ko knows of Tinemada, you know, this Chikona Dako, 1 minute or couple seconds, whatever, and you code you go your ass. Or that teller, not a tesson, that and the Ching Terwa, Chingwa, Tichita, or that terror.
But Chingwa Chitang Jim go out.
Really, or that teaching started with Tentamara.
So these methods of focusing and relaxing or releasing are generally methods to overcome basically the two types of faults that tend to arise in cultivating meditative absorption. And so those two faults are sloth and torpor on the one side, and agitation and excitement or agitation on the other side, or too much mental activity or energy. And so the sloth and torpor is when, we become really heavy, especially what happens is when the body and mind becomes really relaxed. Then often with that, there comes sloth and torpor, but the body feels heavy, the mind gets sleepy. And so then you employ focusing to sort of clear this sloth and torpor or kind of cloudiness, or mental darkness. But he said, and when we're talking about small periods of meditation, maybe, it doesn't, it's not as relevant, but definitely these are things that come up more when we're in kind of really long periods of meditation. And what he's found is that actually to clear away sloth and torpor, sometimes trying to clear it away or fighting against it is less effective than just surrendering to it. So for instance, if you become sleepy, and then you let yourself doze off for a minute or two. And then in dozing off for a minute or two, then that ends up clearing away the torpor, and then you can continue to meditate.
That Tigabla, that Demba go is. Teneji Samsang, Loro Sanjipu, somebody, Tene, Karmaji, na Kahi Kotabikala, Tenea. Karsina, Luno Sanjipu, longer. Luno Yapu. Tene, Luni Yasing, Stan Lucarina, Lubeda, gave us all Lunam children, Bogi or in that in on the Kachek or the spawn of the Somayati, and make your channel da. Or that teaching this Demanoji, this Tripatansare, Noji watching it, Papam or is.
And so here with this, with the method of focusing. So what you can do, for instance, is when there is sloth and torpor, sleepiness, and maybe, for instance, we let ourselves doze off for a minute or two, and then you can do, for instance, what is called kind of clearing or freshening the winds, we might say. And so he just demonstrated where one method in this sharpening or focusing is to kind of clear the winds, like Rebe,
Looks like.
Yeah.
Sort of like long sanj long is.
Yeah. And sort of move your head around, look around, have move the gaze to sort of redirect the gaze and readjust the posture. So like open the chest, straighten the spine. We're sitting, so of course we're sitting in the 7-point posture of Varachana, ideally, but most importantly, the most important aspect of that posture is the straightness of the spine. So especially when it comes to this function of focusing, then part of that is also like lengthening, straightening the spine, and reestablishing the straightness of the posture. And raising the gaze. He sort of said that now, but he also said one beneficial thing is instead of if your gaze is cast down, to actually raise the gaze. Some reason, situation,
jig la tiane tene pe nam to yang jig nam to sarwa ro jig ta pe the situation ro jig khari in ten tene pe nam to shu jig le mo yo res pe chu chia me jo pe jig shine ten chen jig gombi na thadung ko nam to shu che mo ro le mo yo res.
So also what can happen on the other side of the coin is the fault of this agitation or a lot of mental activity, which is really interesting because sometimes you can, after you've really developed a lot of ability to rest in concentrated, calm states of calm abiding without thoughts, without the activity of thought, still something can happen, some condition can happen, and suddenly it like stimulates a lot of discursiveness, and it can be really amplified, like difficult to stop, or it's just, it kind of like you can't really stop it, and it's just a lot of mental activity, proliferating mental activity because of whatever condition that may cause that.
Also this the cause carriers and samsung as kala
Cause?
kala yabo sa mazawan.
Oh, right. Oh, cause.
Ni yabondo mako wanda wo. Ako depending your stay in the take on one age same jiboke situation chag yo mares.
And
Environment tagana environment na body same ra le yo res. Marima sorry not same. Lula ra le yo res. Lula yang lula kota jing. This samsung be lu teletene long this young tomodo le de nam be mamo le yo res kamata.
And actually, often the cause of this is not a mental one. It can be like conditions like you're not eating enough food, or you're not sleeping enough, getting enough sleep, or it can be something in the environment. It could be that, but whatever it is, often what it is associated with is an increase of wind energy. Like there's maybe you have like a lot of wind or lung, and so it's very often not just a mind-based cause, but actually something that has to do with the environment or the body.
Ta tindi gavla ngaso hloba sta tangi dembandor ba ta hloba gogres ta hloba se ya de kanre na tindi lu ta the position is loloche go to zuma the scope tiga na yi kitine khala ju jo tindi sa gores khala ju jo sa o tindi lo chi tindi jikta ko ngaso ni khu me wi na ya ko ni khu ba do tindi chin tindi ko je kharse gore lu kete ngaso ta tere ni coding 어쩌다 테므렘스를 라우거와 사 테네 촐레 템바노 고요레다 사초 템도 테네 루디스 지고서 원도 테네 루디스코 히다 kunju야 만도 같은데 용거 다 롱데다 셈베 헤셈 총베 갑라 테네 수포도 베 양보여고 로냐 도와 다냐 도와 베 양 딩딩도 차노 거리 다티 가서
Vitesse como
테르와 테네 ngaso ta sem choro long dis yona 테네 수포 양보 차노 거리스 수포 양보 차 테네 로냐 토와 베데지 카르세 거레 스마야 남도 망보 루라 디스지 양보로 테네 차노 거리스 테네지 갑라 테네 ngaso 탄다마 호로지 데 테네 칼라사 루이티야데 사촐레템 존 사테지 ngaso
야데 코성
어때디디 콜루디스 지고서 원도 니 쿠르가서 니 코리안 갈랑가서 당분이 쿠구도 삼바지도와 니 쿠구도 잠베기 필링 위아데 코 사초 템사데 사초 템사데 데 수고장 뭐 이거 니 쿠구요나 테네 nga 수고 건조 자야 메존도 테네 베 차노 고요로와 어때 나기 테네 어디 테네 소고 고요레스
맞아. So when this happens, then we need to employ the other function, which is relaxing. So it's really important to like release, relax, let go, to really settle the body, settle the mind, like to eat some heavier foods, heavier grounding foods, to sleep, get some sleep if you can, and if you can't sleep, to like sort of achieve something like sleep, like in your meditation where you're just so relaxed and you're kind of to the point of just really close to sleep or dozing off, but what you're doing is you're really settling the body and settling the mind. And what happens is that when we fall asleep, we go through the stages of the dissolution of the elements, and so like one into the other. And so the first stage of that dissolution is earth dissolving into water. And so that's when we kind of like feel our body get really kind of heavy, and there's that feeling of that pervades the whole body that's like you're just about to fall into sleep, but you're right on the edge there. And at that point, you've already had what's already happened is that earth is dissolved into water, and this really helps to settle the wind. So allowing, you know, and then you're not moving. So the body, it's just like you're really deep, you're allowing kind of a deep settling of relaxation where, you know, when there's a lot of wind, then, you know, and as a result, especially of wind produced by meditation, the body is really buoyant, it's light, and you're very kind of quick and easy to move around, and, you know, sort of, but what we want to do is sort of bring in that buoyantness and make it heavy, like bring in that earth quality and kind of like create some heaviness in the body. So that's part of the relaxing that's helping to settle that wind and maybe, you know, go into some sleep, or at least like that first stage of earth dissolving into water.
다 되리 다 되는 다 된디게 다 가서 희내 좀래 다 희내 된디지 요나 다 된디 동슈 되리 다 되는 다 희내 대양 다양 샘네 야고 샘네 투요나 샘네 바 지고 팽게 말이 다 샘네 바지 참선 샘네는 샘가로 그러고 신이티가나 주ring부 내로고요. 얘네야다 주ring부 내난 되게 되는 티갑라 더송래다. 세와지고 샘판생 샘암보고 샘네비 요래 이메네야 샘게 암보고 고가 망가와지고 거다. 암보고가 망가왔을 때 샘이랑 우세와서 가서랑 샘 통고로 와. 랑 샘데 간에지랑 샘 우세와서 그러 봐. 랑 샘 우세와 되는지 다 디간테네 샘세 땡땡이지 되네. 암보가 고 망가와 왔다 되는지 간라 내나 되는 자자신 못 차려. Yes.
So then with this kind of calm abiding where you're employing, you know, you're just basically abiding in awareness and employing the functions of tightening and loosening, or focusing and loosening and relaxing, and then you get to the point where you can really remain in single-pointed concentration for a long period of time. But actually just remaining in that still concentrated state of absorption itself is not necessarily of so much benefit. You can remain for a long time, but ideally what we want to make sure is present is the real clarity of awareness. So for instance, it can be that we go into a state where we can remain for a long time, and there's really like the 5 faculties are withdrawn, or as it is said, like the doors of the 5 faculties are like completely blocked. So actually it is advisable not to go into a state in which the 5 faculties are blocked, but instead to bring in the quality of clarity or luminosity, kind of like the clear light aspect of awareness, without the faculties becoming withdrawn, but sort of sustaining. So then you're abiding in like that completely concentrated, completely aware, completely gathered attention or awareness that's really bright and vivid and clear, in which the 5 faculties are not blocked, and then sustaining that for a long time, then that evolves into Mahamudra. That's what Mahamudra is.
Okay. 다 대양 다 마하무드라 가요. 그래서 where is the Mahamudra? 하고서. 다 삼노 땅 거래. 나서 무하메드 알라 카리오르잖아. 소마 세야지. 뉴마 세야지. 라와와 세야지. 소미오레스.
And so there are three terms, these are like specific Mahamudra terms, that are used to explain or to sort of point at what are the qualities of Mahamudra. And so these three words are soma in Tibetan, which means like fresh, nyungma, which means natural or innate, we could say, and rangwa.
Primordially.
Or we could also call it primordial, although there's a different word for primordial. So I think nyungma, maybe innate or natural, is good. And then rangwa is, but primordial is there in the meaning of natural. And then rangwa, which is like, it's a great word in Tibetan and hard to say in English, because rang is self and wa means to fall. So it's like just awareness falling into itself is how I like to think of it. But sometimes we say like settled, naturally settled, but it's this term in Tibetan which is rangwa.
다 소마세야들이 소마데 카레 랍나다 나도 단다지타 소마세야 랑게 셈지랑 오세와데다 나라랑 통통구요 말와 통구요 말에 와 자자 첨보데 나도 다 통오죠 자자 첨보데 리리자면 통통구요 말와 다 간데지 삼노 땅 그래 라비나 되네 this 요레 zonre
There's a gari.
glimpse yeah 다데 간데지 요레 라비나 되네 David nam thought pa ye wa Mao nam thought majung wiki between tela teni glimpse ji yore semse wa zechaji tela soma se
That's all. So this quality of soma or freshness is not so we can't, like Mahamudra is not an observable thing, so we can't say like look at it and say it's like this, but we can kind of have, and especially if we haven't had the experience and practice, it's really hard to understand what this is referring to, but we can kind of have a glimpse of it. And like this glimpse of what kind of is meant by this quality of freshness is when we have the experience of like the thought of the past or the thought that has arisen previously has finished, has come to an end, and before the next thought, the future thought arises, there's like a gap where there's no thought. And that kind of no thought gap is really vivid. There's like a just vivid awareness. And that is what that kind of vivid moment between thoughts is what that freshness is like.
Okay, that telling us this condition jaga is tambo choranso namtoji yoro namtonya be tubel no do current tubuto gudo no which some garwa tinta pa sha garwa tene maombi ki namtoti ki mayombi ngola ta tene do so na tene da karma nga do ji kumya is
So gande bidangpo ting ma check belt
bel ji tangro ti bel ta na ju na de komja go tene sam ta yo mari ta na bel ta karsena o ko bel ji to gudo sam go res
Yeah, okay.
ta tambo dis ji ko bel ji to song do ta namtoji go la namtoji
Lep gire.
leb go grace
Oh, okay.
Tene ti nam to te pa ye garwa. Te ti ye cham de tene ta semaying ba tene ta karma nga do chi yun do tene ye kumya is.
So now we can meditate for like 5 or 10 minutes. And what he would like you to do is he's going to ring the bell to sort of like signal to the start of the meditation. And when he rings...
Normally like that, but
and
not today.
Oh, you're not going to. Okay,
Right,
maybe say in English because I'm
right, so
feeling
this
confused.
normally we said, okay, we start meditation, ring the bell, right? Not like that. So right now you have to thinking, or he's ring the bell. Or he's doing the ring the bell, right?
I guess you imagine that he rings the bell.
Right, or imagine wherever you look.
Yeah.
That is the namto, right? That's his thought.
That's a thought. Namtok means thought. So you're gonna have that thought, like you're gonna imagine, oh, he rings the bell, and you have that thought.
That is thought the
And then that thought will kind of dissipate. It'll dissolve. It'll disintegrate. Yeah.
that namto mayung mi ngola. That ngola
And then after you've had that thought and it like kind of dissolves out, then before the next thought arises, look at that fresh, just state of non-thought. Just look at that absence of thought and its quality, and then we will meditate without sustaining undistracted awareness for 5 or 10 minutes. Oh, so he's not going to ring the bell, but he's going to pick it up.
No, ring the bell, yes.
You are going to ring the bell. Oh, I'm so confused.
Yeah.
So you are going to ring the bell.
Yes.
I thought you said you're not going to ring the bell, and we're thinking that you ring the bell.
No, ring the bell,
Okay,
yes.
but we're having a thought about him ringing the bell. Okay. Because he's ringing the bell. All right.
Right, okay. 오다 단다 소마세요. 데베케 남도 더파 치 마원 남도 마샤베케 다 티키 찌마텔라텐 셈 세레 세팅이 지 요레스 오 텔라 테네 소마 랍그레스.
So this is this quality of fresh or soma, which can be kind of understood by understanding, for instance, that moment in which the one thought, the current thought has passed. So after the one thought has passed and before another thought or the future thought arises, that space without thought in which the mind is vivid and clear. That's soma or fresh.
다 텔라 소리 다 디인데 되네 틴디게 땅가서 네 톱네 샘제랑지 샘랑레랑세 태양 되네 가서 데려다 융마 얘네 가서 요대와래 뭐도 단단한 곰잡네요 서발레옹 정도지 말에 얘는 너만에 가서 휴원나 이래 가서 왕시비 깎게 휴원나 이래 뭐만에 요요바래 So
then we have, then with that quality of freshness, if we can remain there in that fresh, vivid clarity of awareness for a long time, then it kind of evolves into an experience of like a really, direct experience of the nature of the mind, one's own intrinsic awareness, that is self-luminous, self-aware, arising this self-aware intrinsic awareness, which has then the quality nyingma. So that's what is referred to, the nyingma, which is natural, is referring to is this tapping into that awareness that has been there primordially, or that essence which has been there primordially, and therefore is completely natural. It's just natural and has always been present, and is understood as such. It's not that there is some new state that is developed or created, but it's actually the intrinsic state, the intrinsic awareness that has been primordially present, that is primordially present, which is always there, whether we're wandering in samsara, whether we're not wandering in samsara, whether there's delusion or enlightened awareness.
다 테리 다 텔라 카르센다 당보테 소마르와 드네 뉴마르와 드네 라마브존데 다 라마브세야데 양가서지 땅가 차자 전부 공부요 지지 서버로 닝겨오지 텐데 말레스 라마 코라라라 샤샤 라마블로 버리 다 참랭가서 가르서나 타말비 해봐라고 버리 타말비 해봐 타말비 해봐지 강한 요와 더가랑 가서 제초 맞이봐 샤샤 바텔라 근데 타메비 해봐라고도 와 당가서 섭쇼티네 데 타말차고 말와 가르서나 오다 텐다오지 텔라테네 맞다 라마 데 삼랭가서 데 타메비 해봐라고 그래서
So then there's this third quality, which is rangwap, or which is, this sort of settled, or as I like to say, awareness falling into itself, because it is just this natural settling that is, sometimes he said we think that when we think of Mahamudra, we think of some like new beautiful state that seems something completely other than what is completely natural. And so it isn't, this Rangwap quality is that, and sometimes actually another term that is a common Mahamudra term is Tamar Shepa, which probably some of you have heard, which is also translated as ordinary awareness. And so what is meant is that it is completely ordinary, in that there's no fabrication at all. It's just a release into its natural state, into the natural state. And that it's just, right there, that it is it itself, this awareness that is naturally present without kind of creating anything else. If there is any fabrication, if there's any creation of some sort of state, then it is something other than what is completely natural. Mm-hmm.
Ben charge chambo da kajibe ke lama khongban de so ke ngone thane samji michawarwa samji michaware ta nga zo kharsung gor sina sangje langchang su songbare sangje de dodo ro ji de wa ro o te kharsina tene be chegirin bo meba tene dirhi meba tene power to ro tene meba be kharse gore sekjek na ta be cha cha na soma se ya ti ga na ta ngone ngu na thu ro yo ro ba o che khasi du du no tele be ning ji o chi dongbare ni dongbare tini khan la bo yo ma les
Tesa koma song pena de sanje la bala teba nang sin ya.
sangje langchang su so ne nga zo jala ji chorang di no chong thup gro wa le lo wa
So did Drawore.
o ten do les
Yeah. So, the instructions of Mahamudra, which are essentially, the instructions from the great Kagyu masters of the past are really so, inconceivably profound. They're so amazing because it's said that it's kind of like they're so on point that it's like the Buddha just taking an object and giving it to you. It's like that kind of feeling. I think it's like you just get it, and they're so concise. There's very little explanation needed. It's like it's not like elaborate poetry. It's not even just with the single word soma or fresh. That there's this introduction that can happen just in the receiving of that term or that the hearing of that word.
o da tin ta te to bar chi wala thagi khong thu ba na yiri so sa driba cha be lagje song do o so nam ji so go gu yo de tu tene ta te yo na so nam ti ji yap ten ta ka sang la ba ren ngo do ngo ji la so ba ta zon ro na tene nga so ta ji ka ju la ma ma che ji tene ro wa khar se na ta benetindi ya chi lama chi le ten ne te lama thi ki lama na te go ma do ta nga zo ji ta thing jang so no be ka sa ka la chap ra chi de za chen bo ris ni yo ma ro ten ni chi ta be jo ji ten som ni zong go ka la te ko je tam chi de un re ji de be sam ba ta ten ni je le ten ne te ni nga zo to ro yo res
And so of course, there are the preliminaries to practicing, these profound pith instructions on Mahamudra, because in order to realize Mahamudra, you also have to have gathered merit. You have to have enough merit to support it. You have to purify obscure, and that's why there are the preliminary practices that serve to they function as a gathering of accumulations and purifying obscurations, because we do need merit, this support of merit to be able to realize Mahamudra. And so this is, we have the preliminaries that are really a requirement to being able to meditate on Mahamudra. And the transmission of Mahamudra is so profound and so alive because it is, it's going back generations and generations from like one master to, from master to disciple, like one-on-one or ear to ear, and like based on the arising of realization and then giving introduction to someone and them having realization and then passing it on. So it's this unbroken continuity. And it's not like today, today it's like, we make this effort to like everything is advertised and there are announcements and you're trying to like bring people to the teachings. But back then it was like during the time of Jigten Sumken, the whole valley was like filled with yogis. Every mountainside was filled with yogis. So it was, and these were the instructions that they were receiving.
어다들이 답에 두두리 배낭가 조차샤위나 대삼구요다 등장 가르종모스나 가서직 트리에르 투라고도와 트리에르 투테 라야데 가르선다 쟁가서 모노지야다 티네 예담지야다 저조다 트리에르 투 틴지레로 삼구요로와 데 트리에르 투라고요 말레스.
So actually, and we have like the traditional 3-year retreat now, that everybody, people, and they've come to associate the 3-year retreat with, it's like during the 3-year retreat, you go through the ngondro, the preliminary practices, and then you go through, step by step, the progressive stages, you practice the Yidam deity and so forth. But actually that before was not how they did the 3-year retreat. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
다 트리에르 투세야테 카를라고요레 라나테네 나서 이헤클롱 차자침보 코랑 갈네데와.
Sorry, now I understand.
텔라테네 트리에르 투라고요레 스페나차자 트리에르 세야데 당가서 머직라 테네 로자토고요나 제탕가서다 제탕가서 이헤클롱다 뇽몽베클롱 다고 오토매틱리 테네 용거레 테네 베나머 다 매직이나 되는 매직도 로자탐바 투구요나 텔라코 랑이케티니 이헤클롱 가시 용거세나 로즈온다 되네 샤포십시나 개초지티니 이헤롱 용거다 딜롱데티니 셈네 티에테니테 당가조텔라 가르세고라 로솜 촉솜 세야텔라 되네 로즈온다 샤마힙치시르가텔라
Okay, so sorry, I misunderstood. It wasn't that it's not the same. He was just saying that like we think, 3-year retreat, and we think about it in terms of like, this is what you do on a 3-year retreat. You do the ngondro, and then you do the five-fold path of Mahamudra and so forth. But actually what's really like the purpose of 3-year retreat is that it's actually perfectly calculated based on like the prana. And wind, because there's 2 types of wind when we breathe in the body. Like, so there's the primordial wisdom winds and there's the delusion winds, the winds of afflictive emotions. Most of our experience is predominated by the afflictive emotion winds. But then when somebody, like if say during the lifespan of someone who lives to be 100, then there's a like certain number of times when usually everybody does have a time when they do have a wisdom wind that becomes predominant. And so when you calculate the total number of wisdom winds that somebody breathes or has predominant in a like 100-year lifespan of an individual, then if you were to kind of take all of those winds and make, remove the affliction winds and have it just be wisdom winds, it equals out to be 3 years and 3 half months, which is 3 years and 45 days, which is the period of the 3-year retreat. And that's the idea, is that we're transforming the winds, basically, the prana, to become the primordial wisdom prana.
다 테리 당가서디 책 누르칸이 요래 수야들이다. 배낭가선 천지 나로 초로지 나 나로 초로 또 몰라서 요러와. 이는 세미 뜰로 초로 세다 로솜께 나면 냠냥 같이야 요래. 와. 다 까주 라미케 송샤죠 코페 하산의 책 두두 배 돈다 상마 텔렌 두데요 배 야침보마 임바 제기리 메리티니 요 말이스 배나 센치 세미 텔로초도 시야 티나 카르곰 스리 책게리 메노
Okay, wait. Menu,
메삼
mesam,
메곰
megom,
메치 딱지 마지
michi.
대가라와 책테마도 요 말다 로종 보면 돼
Wait, but the jimato menu, mesam, megom, michi.
예, 다들 제탕 데리다 다들 제탕 메셈라 서모바요 말이스
Mesem, tang.
메곰 메치 인다디 인제 메 조창라요 말이야
Mesam, megom, michi, mesem.
오케이 메노스 서모마타 메노스 에나 메셈
The depa machi.
메셈 다치 과라도 상 메삼
What's the sixth one? Do you know? This we're missing the sixth. Oh, wrong sarsha. Yeah, or something like that. Yeah.
태요만다
Mare, no, there's
메노
meno,
메삼
mesam,
메셈
mesem,
다도 참 지파를 좀 데모 다 두성으로
Right.
데비 좀 노 되는 메곰
megom,
메치
michi.
랑와
Wrong sarsha or
야
rang.
랑이야
Thank you. So the so we have there the completion stage yogas. So we have the generation stage, right, which is like the deity practice, and then there's the completion stage. And the completion stage has two categories, with characteristics and without characteristics. So with characteristics, the completion stage with characteristics is like the practices of the 6 yogas, for instance. Right, and the completion stage without the 6 yogas of Naropa, or the 6 dharmas of Naropa, and then the completion stage without characteristics is, for instance, the 6 dharmas or the 6 yogas of Tilopa. And in the 6 dharmas of Tilopa, it's incredibly like it's just like, what are you meditating on when you're doing completion stage without characteristics? So the 6 yogas are so simple. So it's like, don't, and these are hard to translate because they're like, and they're funny words in Tibetan because sometimes they're even like not verbs but nouns. But anyway, there are a lot of different ways that these are translated, but I usually say like, don't follow. Like the first one is minu, which is like, don't follow after. Misam.
일단 네 마음 다다 두성으로 뭐 들라
Yeah, and actually the first three are dealing with past, present, future. So thoughts concerning with the past. So for don't follow after thoughts of the past, or don't think about the past. Don't misam, don't follow after the future, or it can be seen in both ways. Don't think about the future, don't plan, or don't follow that future thought, don't get hooked by that future thought, and don't think about the present, in the present sense. Don't meditate like on don't make any intentional effort to meditate.
So that's meditate love. Meditate love 다 삼랭 가서 meditate love 다 자자체보 곰 love 야 도도지 구미야 요 I this meditate 와 지 요반다고 테마 곰을 요 말이라고.
So meaning that, like we have so much concept around meditation, like I'm going to meditate on Mahamudra as if it's this thing, like this actual substantial thing to meditate upon, or that this, so don't meditate. So it is said in regards to that, non-meditation is supreme meditation, is the supreme meditation. And don't investigate, don't analyze, don't proliferate or investigate, but just let awareness naturally be released in itself, just naturally settle into awareness. And these are the 6 yogas of Tilopa. That's what those 6 are. Yeah, the 6 dharmas of Tilopa.
다 들이 가장되는 dingen 왕시베가 초랑이는 대예파 초랑란도 송네 대가 나기게 되네 텔로바 가라라는 송데 해버주 송다 라기 되네 라와 당기 공투와 이래 가야 제조 마지바 라와 타메비 해발라고 요나래 다 체크하려고 나 소말라고 해가 되네 네 탐나 대가랑리 스텔레진 레시 제 동바레 제 동바마레 제 조요 마레 예스니지 뭐 그냥 라고요 마레스 이다 참동 고토주 그러와
So this is also what is meant by, remember in the empowerment with that line in the introduction to awareness where it says you are also its father, you are the father of it. And so that is what is meant by, like, there's really nothing to be achieved, nothing to be accomplished, nothing to be done other than allowing awareness to drop into itself, other than naturally settling into what is primordially present as the ordinary awareness. So that itself, there's no sort of like emptiness to figure out, to sort of like take apart and analyze till you sort of then discover this emptiness through effort. But it's really just the completely natural, fresh, uncontrived, naturally settled, like intrinsic ordinary awareness. So and of course, that being said, sometimes still it's misunderstood. Samsamla ha kokumare or samsamla norwa draw take it la yurwa. Anyway.
Rita Tombani of the confusing chagrava. Hako be Nota Mando.
And sometimes because, and also for instance, like I think what he was saying in particular is that with for instance, this is study of emptiness, or like really speaking, emptiness, like we can misunderstand. Misunderstanding can actually be generated through that.
That is Penachana, that is almost the Kaju Lamanda Songoni, Tangala, Sanji Langchang Stiba, Sony, Tenita, Kanitegi or Sena, Kansa tell a source of Natoraki, Taki Chido, BMC. Chili
So Kagilama Young Tarkonta.
Okay, Kaju Lamatazoke, Sanji Langchang Stibas, Lagdoa. What a candidate Benson should be in us. Bena, that Sanji Langchang, the TCU telecasana, Sonam Tandemba, Sola, the what you go your is. That's a priority.
In last one. So, like the Kagyu masters of the past say, that it is so, it's like, these pith instructions are like the Buddha, like directly giving it to you, just like putting it in your hand, so to speak. But like the hand that is to receive it, the one who can receive this object is one who has a great deal of merit. So the emphasis, the priority has to be on the gathering of merit, the gathering of the accumulations and the purification of obscurations.
Today, China Channel Shigujire, Tangazo Gaju Kilama, Chungsadi, Damga Chungsadi, Narobade, Naroba, Marba Chumbare, Marbijela, Marbase, Povarawa. In Tangazo, that Chungse Zo, the Yarne, Kari Chumbare Lama, Naroba Chumbare. Naroba ke tene, Naroba keta, Kachen Juni, Kanchen Juni, Kawachi ores. Teloba, Tsuyala, Koran Zavela, Tsuyala.
So like for instance, if we look, and this is so evident just in reading the stories of the past masters, the masters of the past, because all of the examples, like for instance, if we think of Naropa, so as you know, Naropa, so Marpa was the one who carried this lineage from Tibet to India, or from India to Tibet, and so not
also Katsangas the four core emergent drop and color.
So also remember he spoke about that he mentioned that this practice of Kala Chakra, which is the co-emergent Kala Chakra, and then we have the four co-emergent deities, Kala Chakra, Hivadra, Chakra Sambhara, and Guhya Samaja, the co-emergent practices of the four deities. These come from, this is what, Marpa directly, Marpa's translations that were then brought from India. So so much of the Sarma literature comes from Naropa, who was an Indian Mahasiddha, whose guru was Tilopa. And when Naropa was first, in his journey to find Tilopa, his master, his guru, he underwent the 12 great and the 12 lesser hardships, in his journey to find Tilopa, which became his process of gathering accumulations and purifying obscurations.
So that's also the story here.
So how many people know that story of Naropa?
Okay.
Didn't he have to do things that were seemingly very bad?
So the question was, didn't he have to do things that were seemingly very bad? Kosome. Naropa or Tilopa? Naropa. Right. Didn't the Kong Yang Dukja, didn't the Pena Yang Digbigi, Lega Yang Chegoa Cha Yomare, they do.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Okay, now maybe Likabet, I not to whole story, but ta karchi yore labna narobate ta penkepares nalentra nala ta tidu jagar kanala university senari ta nambe kichoke tevate perata jagar jaryon sanje chongbare sanje jelatine tarchap chongna nagarjuna la soba tarchap chongna ta nalentra bekama hili zublaka ta tzola pemesi chembores Tende naroba pata nalenta kyogosare nalenta pent da chembores Tende ta nalenta te ta coaching kepachi tine nalmarda de naroba pe kepa rexi lagda da tul habu sarwa tul je khab debe kabla tene nyama je khona te chilola pechata debe kabla tene chamna roji chongbares chamna roji chungpa da de jemenji yores this long yamboji tene jemenji ko chu 가르치고요. 저나 데 배차 약고 흰거요. 책도 약고 흰거요. 라비오레스. 대랍도 있더니 나로베게 흰거요. 배차 정말 흰거요 라비오레스. 되네 뭐라베 가원로치 야야야 베 오레노 라비오레스. 되네 디슈라 아나 저나 배차도 돈다 하고도에 라비오레스. 돈다야 하고도 라비오레스. Tene mope controsa sa galanji tene chiores tene tate chi tene narobe akare choranga to sekhi gulabdi chorodis gagire tona hi gulabdi chora pedugre kare lawyores temo chora sekhi yate tembares chora pendares dina narenda na top prowa ine ya tona hi usaya chora zumares lawyores
Kong ta tampo kong de mo ge chi don shegyo be six shegyo be ne kong samo tam six shegyo la isara tene okay
yeah
all right so so the story is that so Naropa was so maybe you all know of during
Yintaki Naropa lurju layak jumsen karsina Telopa ke damga kharan na yorta naropa kange khasi jab yore labdu damga ja chimbo khasi na yore esya ta tere sanje langchang se khandi ti yore sti thonda ti ina thambo de kale jab ti sa kho go
So Naropa was a great scholar at Nalanda University. He was a Pandita. So at that time, there were these extraordinarily famous and monastic universities in ancient India at this time, like the two main monastic universities being Nalanda and Vikramashila, and this is where for instance Nagarjuna also was one of the earliest great scholars at Nalanda University, and many of the great early Indian scholars and masters came out of the Nalanda and Vikramashila. And so Naropa was a great Pandita and just an extraordinary scholar. And then there was like the time, when the time came for him for his sort of spiritual ripening, he had all the knowledge, but he hadn't yet really had the real sort of spiritual awakening. It wasn't the time yet. But when the time came, the way that this time manifested for him was that he was sitting outside and he was reading texts, and he saw this shadow come, over the text that he was reading, and he looked up and he saw this old, ugly woman standing there, like really kind of just yeah. And then he looked up and she said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm reading." And she said, "So tell me, do you understand the word? Do you understand what you're reading? Do you understand this text? Do you understand the words?" And he thought about it and he could confidently say, "Yeah, I understand the words. I understand the words." And she became so overjoyed. She was like started dancing around and laughing and just like celebrating and was so happy. And Naropa was really startled by this and thought, and then she said, "Well, tell me, do you understand the meaning?" And he thought, well, she was so happy that I understood the words. If I tell her I also understand the meaning, she's going to be so ecstatic. And so he didn't really understand the meaning, but he said, "Yes, I also understand the meaning." And then her demeanor completely changed, and she became really angry and upset, and was and sort of so. And he said, "Well, what happened? You were so happy when I said I understood the words. Why aren't you happy when I say I understand the meaning?" And she said, "Because you were lying when you said you understand the meaning. It's true, you do understand the words, but you don't yet understand the meaning."
Teneda Naropa Konrela, Teneda, Tindo, that D. Gemendi, Gasno in Samares, Samchitine, or really Tinatanga Tonda, the Hakonanga, Candis Lojon Chigures, Carno Gray Laviores.
And so then Naropa thought, okay, this isn't an ordinary woman. So he said, okay, then in order to understand the meaning, what do I need to do?
Teneda Monarchy, what I need broader, the Loba, say a Gior, Dangoris, take it on the Haku days.
So she said, "You need to go visit my brother. If you rely on my brother, you'll understand the meaning." Brother Tenna, yeah, my brother is Tilopa, she said. Yeah.
Tene Kawayore love the Yayabotangamar, or that you're sure to remand or son, Rando Kavores.
And so then he said, "Well, so he said, okay, great. How do I find him? How do I find Tilopa?" And she said, "Go to the east." And she didn't say anything other than that. She just said, go to the east and you'll find Tilopa.
That Tennyson, Tenecope, that layer of Tabajin, Teloba, say, and Sam Toba Zamitini, Luna Hapadana, Watanga, Karimego Carizon, that Teloba Zegido, Tegaran Conatin, Teloba Zegandorova.
And so he had, just upon hearing Tilopa's name, he had this tremendous upwelling of faith, so much so that even when he thought of him, the idea of him, all his hairs would stand on end and he would get goosebumps, and he just was just absolutely intent on finding Tilopa. Not clear on where he was going or any particular, he just trusting that and following, to going in the direction of the east, that he would find him.
어다 틴디 치네 다 가바 컨텐츠 중이 지리다 네 레로 라기요 마타 마카와 토나 텔로바 하고요에 되네 매직 토나 텔로바 카와 이도 텔로바 하고요에 다 틴디 라부요레스 다 책게 휴기 뭐뭐 휴기메 틴디 틴디 다 매직 토바레스 다 중이요로 중이 참마다 라트가 투도노로 봐 틴디 다 틴디 매직게 오 텔로바 하고요에 라부 오 텔로바 하고요스 때로 치려도 다 당보 알아로 하지 치고 그러스 tene choranga thangbo rokwachi tene nge chotelo ba anggo la yores telabdi tene o ta yindi of course ta ko pe gathana ta choranga rokwa khargona nge chigos labdi tene ya ndegri ta nge te phamani konga sigos ko dogja dos phamadini tene ta te sero chi da tene nge choranga telo ba khabayo da anggo la yores
And so this gets to what you were speaking to, Michael. So yes, seemingly so. But so then in his journey to find Tilopa, he underwent the 12 greater hardships. De nika, de chea dang chunga nika. Yeah, just the 12 greater hardships. And so he just, as he was, searching, he just asked everyone that he came upon, have you heard of this person Tilopa? Do you know of this Tilopa? Can you tell me how to find this, man Tilopa? And so everyone, he traveled like far and wide, like looking and searching, and nobody, could tell him. No one knew who Tilopa was. And then at one point, he finally met someone who said, "Oh yes, I know of Tilopa," and he was overjoyed. And he said, "Well, please, tell me how can I find him? Please, direct me to him." And he said, "I can tell you how to find him, but can you help me first?" And he said, "Sure. Tell me what you need. I'll help you." And he said. And he was so happy. He said, "Absolutely, I will do whatever you need." He was so ecstatic that he had finally found someone who knew, of Tilopa and how to find him. And he said, "I need to kill my mother and father, so help me to kill my mother and father." And then Tilopa said, in that case, Naropa said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I definitely cannot do that." And so then he said so this person was actually an emanation of Tilopa, and he said if you don't kill the mother and father of attachment and aversion, how can you ever expect to find Tilopa? And so it was like, he heard these words and kind of understood. And so there were like 12 different things similar to this, where he had these kind of strange moments of receiving these pith instructions that occurred upon, having endured all, these different hardships. And then ultimately he found Tilopa.
다 들어봐 이제네 다 차체 되네 배 대차체 초바푸 되네 다 가초나로나 라도 양 가초난기요 말했어.
And so he prostrated upon encountering Tilopa. He prostrated to him and requested and made offerings and requested teachings, instruction, but Tilopa refused him.
얘네 고난이 다 들어봐 냠든 로기오레스 가사 간 로기오레스.
So he followed Tilopa around for a long time.
근데 다 니마지 냠든 로에 까블라 되네 이 다코지 가서 등산직 된 디나자오나 베가 장복하나 지리요 말이스 베 가두이나 콩들로바 콩로사 진 지리요레스 데 니마지 들로바 손데 열보다 열보 게츠모다 되네 다 롱보다 되네 다 미니스트리도 상마테 람가가나 다다 랑젠도 형은 로기요레스
And so, and mostly, Talopa wasn't like kind and gentle. He was pretty like easily annoyed with him and with Naropa and kind of, not paying him much mind or attention. But then one day, there was this, I guess, like procession, of a queen and a king and ministers and lots of elephants, so, in a caravan of elephants.
걔네들이 디 저랑케디 열보 그 주모다 밥 가서 될 티 톱사래 티 올라비 오라와
Sumo gigare.
열보 그 주모다 마다 간마 밥 랑chen 간마 밥 될 티 호스
So sumo de yang yuk dawo dene de
요 노마다 다 간마 take out in the brain here 라와
the
열보 주모다
sumo. So he said, go, like, I think, basically whatever bandits do, where they, like go, like jump up on the elephant or the horse of where the queen, of the king's queen, and like steal her off of the horse and bring her here. Yeah.
걔네들이 지요레스
So he did that. He tried.
얘네들이 코페 항상 같이 두고 말바 공부 열보 마요래 되네
But of course, he was unable to, and they all attacked him
the beating them
and beat him, to a bloody pulp. I mean, I added that part. I beat him.
어떻게 되네 다 나로 발려 저 같이 왔었어요 저 늑도 엘라비오레스
And so then when he came in this state to Talopa said, "Well, what happened to you? What happened?"
되지 되네 동서다 된다보다 나 정말 휴요마다 된다보더니 까와 중이지 요레스
And so then, he won't go into the whole thing, but there was this lesson that he also learned in that kind of challenge, that test that he was. So there were all of these similar, really extreme situations, and where Talopa really put Naropa to the test, and he. So and this is what is referred to as these 12 those are the 12 lesser hardships.
근데 다 담아대다 중요기 제라 되네 다 들어봐고 다 되네 가초 난기 저는 당마 난기 있네 아주 사체도 정말 소야 뭐지 되네 지라버레스
And then
사도 텔라메바베 야 보소고레스
And so then after, all of these 12, he had done all these 12 greater and 12 lesser hardships, then finally Talopa agreed to give Naropa pith instructions. And so when he, first they had to like prepare the space, and the space, he said, so clean the space, which was like really dusty, it was like a dusty dirt ground.
Dusty usually in a that's never choose
Yeah, so it was a dusty place. So it was like make it clean, like put put some water on the dust, like settle the dust.
set up
And then he set up a throne for Talopa. But he couldn't, so he really did his best to like really prepare like a beautiful clean space, but he couldn't find enough water. It was still really dusty. So he said, I've set up this space, but I can't seem to find water. I don't have enough water. I don't have water. And so then Talopa said, is there not water in your body? So he cut one of his veins and then like sprinkled some of his blood on the ground to settle the dust.
karzagat meant tre tini rawatini ben kurio korana tini samji me chawatini chayores.
And then through the power of that, the depth of his faith in doing that, like ordinarily, you know, like blood is like, you know, dirty and unclean, but it became like this sort of like really pure saffron, medicinal, fragrant water. And then the whole sort of space transformed into like this pure Buddha field, this pure, you know, kind of magnificent celestial palace in which then Tilopa gave him his first fifth instructions.
Oda tini tini nangdi da kalau yore lamna. Telo ngai jiyang tendumi rang song the hebar chu se da tsek na yorwa.
So Tilo or Naro.
Oh no.
Naro, Chiyang.
No. Telo pa ye.
Tilo.
Me ke ro telo pa me ke jiyang tendumi.
Tin Dume.
Rang song the hebar chus.
Rang La
song de
Sunbe.
da danes. Chon hebar chis.
Shibaji. So what Tilopa said to Naropa at that time is, Naropa, I have nothing to show you. Look for yourself with your own mind at your own intrinsic awareness. Like understand your own mind.
That is secretary, that's secretary. That Tindi gone, that hanging out of the Tamar behavior, say at it. That Jatan Gablet, Gahida, long Tindi, Huberis, go on, this Huberis. Yet the two they are male.
He said a little more than that first, you know, but then no. Then I got it.
Then Hamgoji Hubera, Madame Goganji Huberella.
Oh yeah. That the Digimuna.
Or
Digijela.
Tijela.
Sorry. Yeah, no, that was all he said. And then he took his sandal and whacked him over the head with his sandal. And he said those words, I guess, in that moment, didn't he?
That thing over the Latin, Korant and the rank same tagi Tamar be Hepa la imba, Yuma la imba, what the thing? Moved to Jorbury.
And so he lost, it said he kind of like fainted away or lost consciousness. And then in that moment, he came to, and in that moment, he really he had like full understanding of the meaning of these words. He directly realized, you know, his own intrinsic awareness, the ordinary, the Tarmar Shepa, this ordinary awareness that is completely fresh, natural, and innate.
That 가서 또야마 더 베킨들이 야야 이거 말이에요. 다 참상가서 지금 동반이 이제 희망고 야가되고. 근데 jak시 유코나 이거 말이에요. 지금성 송도 이 차자지 뭐 히라 야야 이거 말이에요. 차자지 뭐 배인 총도 미존도 배인 차지 동반이 이게 동반이 이거 말이에요.
So this is really like this is said to kind of demonstrate that to really understand what Mahamudra is, it has to be realized. It has to be understood directly. Like we can't really explain it. And in fact, that there are all these efforts to explain it. Oh, emptiness, and it's like this, and it's like that, and there's all this explanation. But except for like symbol, you know, apart from being examples or symbols, it can't really indicate. There's nothing that can indicate what is actually the experience of Mahamudra other than directly realizing it yourself.
근데 로드롭 대성을 책제리 로드롭 대성어디 지추 마지 랑이 로버효스 지추 섭초 마지라고 섭초 강마지스
섭초 마지
섭초 마지 랑이 로버효스
And likewise, Nagarjuna says, don't fabricate anything or don't create anything, just relax into the natural state.
Okay. tene tezongdo marbeke karzomsna tene gomto mi te gomya yo maris yingya yo maris
Yangcha.
강 장대리 내 말에 벤더히 야트니 제 아요 말 강 아요 말이스 벤송 제 베샤 요 말이스
So yang sik kandere?
곰트 미테 잉스미스
Gom de me ying sume.
미
So
강
likewise,
장장 총트메
gan.
강게 장랑 총트메 스페더 오제 요 말이스 강 요 말이스 벤더리 데 나무라 요 말이스
So Marva says there's nothing to meditate upon or not meditating. There's nothing to meditate upon yet completely free of distraction. It is not something that can be like indicated through description and thinking. I think sort of. I didn't fully understand what he was saying in the last line. But
강게
yeah.
장 총트메 라나 베 강야 셔야 요 말이스
There's no example that can really perfectly describe it.
오다 티니다 또고나 대지 랑케 타메베 헤바 팅오라 샤나다 라말라 테니 대바고 그레스 티도 그레스
And in order to realize it, tokona dene lamala deba. Dene shimba sonam tuyo.
너무다 되다
In order to realize it, it is realized through devotion to the Guru.
드네 다 로에 데레데 가르세디 파모트베 가르송을세나 로에 레나 더욱든 조르스
Lo
데나 마추랑 소르샤스
yirikna.
더욱든 조르
The dampo tenda lungte mambo yonangani dampo.
다다 아제데 링도데 디 롱된 게 제메도 베레도
Lungte neya. Lo
오야 다
yirikna.
데레디 저랑 남토 키제수 파수 제리 마리람나 더욱나 이레스 더욱 요노르 히 마레스 다 가르고스나 마추 바랑 와소스
So sik yang charlap di lo yirikna.
다테 로고마 다 당볼라 임바 남토 요나 남토 키제 숲주로 지 지기 요나 데 더욱나 오차노 그레스
So if it becomes something that you can conceptualize or that is created by thought, then it becomes contaminated, it becomes poison. So instead, just letting go of all concept, not creating or fabricating anything, just allow the mind to naturally settle.
오케이
Can I ask a quick question?
오케이 야
Use the mic, please. Okay.
Drupon, I'm just wondering, when we were in Ladakh, we visited
maybe your mic is farther
Can you hear me?
farther. Oh yeah
Is that
Like
better?
that's better.
Yeah, when we were in Ladakh, we visited the Lama Yuru and Atise monastery. Just because you brought up Naropa, and he was supposed to have meditated there. Do you know any stories around that? Did he go up there after his like initial enlightenment experience you just described?
Like when was it that he was there?
I mean, did he? Yeah. Do you know any history around those? Because someone said he was enlightened at the Atise monastery, and I didn't know if you know anything about that.
말이 다디 디 나로바 캡데 텔레도와 라마 유르레도와 아디제세야다.
Yeah, Lama Yuru, Atise.
Tene ta jita ti naroba la kasakala pheba thapo naroba ke navza ta sankar da ta mambo yore ta phebya sares yinda ti sangje sa tene hapo mes
So, he's not sure about like exactly like where he is said to become enlightened or, what happened exactly where, but there are so many holy places associated with Naropa, through, what as you mentioned, Lama Yuru, Atise, and
And that's also one area, Sankar area.
in the Sankar area too, where there's the robe, where there's a relic of his robes.
Someone's
Relic of what?
Like his a
okay.
piece of cloth from his
Okay.
meditation shawl or robe.
Was there a boot that they discovered there?
Oh, right. I think the boots in the Lamayuru, right? I think. The Naropa, yeah.
That is said to be Naropa's boot, yeah.
And that was at the anniversary, and they were doomed, and the doc, oh, I'm sorry.
I was asking about the boot, because at the anniversary of Lord Jigten Singha, that boot was brought down, I think from Ladakh, and they gave blessings
think I
over at
remember
the
that,
monastery
yeah.
with that boot.
No, Mari.
Te Mari.
Are you asking if it is the
Was
boot
that the
that he used to, that he whacked on his head? Yeah.
Yes, you're right. So there is Naropa boots from, I think, Lama Yuru. So this Lord Jigten Singha University, what is the, how did it do that? I don't know.
Yeah, that you're right. When when there was that big occasion, we all came together, and there was all of those holy relics, and that was there. Yes. But he doesn't think it's the same shoe that was used to by Tilopa to awaken him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe, if you have questions before we start.
So he's opening it up just to any other questions since we started with some question and answer. If anyone has any.
Just for our friends in the temple and our friends on Zoom, for friends in the temple, if you could come over to this side of the room and sort of line up to ask questions, so you can use the microphone. That would be wonderful.
So to Deanna's side.
Yes, exactly. And then friends on Zoom, if you could please raise your hands and we will unmute you. We'll call on you to ask questions. That would be wonderful. Thank you.
I'm struck by so many practices that all get to not practicing, not doing the path, not doing anything, but settling into intrinsic awareness. It sounds to me like pieces of the Heart Sutra and of so many other things that we practice. And I guess it comes back. I guess my question is, do we really just work on, not work, but do we practice the basics and wait for the lightning, the enlightenment to just dawn on us? In other words, it's not an effort.
Tini di lag yorwa pena ngaso nuni chini pe nyamlen pe mambo yorwa nyamlen che tang dramenda tini betsun che goa dramenda yena yang te tama nuni dunda te yang gayang che ju me ba trawo te nuni dunda ha goya ki chidu gayang che ju me ba trawo re pena yang de Ningpo dan dawo yojire dawo sorgi yorwa tini de chetang denda yena ngaso pena te sale lawa dawo che nyamling chena yang na pena mangshi dawo tso tena tini yang te rangshi yang te jangchu gobang shaya nima chek do shargere be gande chek kore so
I think that's a very good question. They are raised around of it. Really, that the that the Katanga Huba Chaja Chimbo Koranga Jibudang when a Zopa Chimbo that some Pombari say Tijibu Kitselatana, this Kalika Boyores.
So right now, if we just like, for instance, as he said, if we just like look at the words of Mahamudra, or as you mentioned, like reading the Heart Sutra, to really understand it just based on that, like, is difficult. Rebe. Yabola Mazongi.
Katanga to La Imba Bena take your lab, Sarita, Chaja Chimbo down. Zopa Chimbo Tombani Labiada, Tijibu, no Sonotana. This Galeores.
Yeah, so if we just like rely on, the words of like trying to practice Mahamudra or Dzogchen based on how it's described to practice, Mahamudra or Dzogchen, that's maybe difficult. Because that's the fruit. But we have to practice.
Step by step.
So, what's advisable is actually to do the progressive stages of the path, to do like all the preliminaries, the mundo, everything, step by step. But however we do it, whether or not we do it in that form, we do have to put effort into practice.
Naroba. Naroba Korana, Yamnechi Yojere, Yamji Yojere, Yina Fanara, Hansayak the Sola, Sol, Mahinda, the corner Chilap, the Jagiorwa, the Lobby Chilap, Shigio Marimoto, Shia Kangeno, the Kangi Jagiorwa. That's one of the days there.
So, for instance, like in the example of Naropa, so Naropa, prior to his journey, to find Tilopa, surely he had done like lots of preliminary practice. He had practiced, the Yidam deity. But then when it really came to like finally like really breaking through to awakening, like it required him to go to a level of just complete surrender and like being willing to sacrifice his own life.
That Tindi Chibin David Tamata Tandana, Jake Diana, Tegarango, Tobaro. Tangazo Zamna Yang, Lamsan Tindi, Lama Jake, Senari, Chaga Chimbo, Moti, but Zamji, Tobiake, Totobia Cabores. That teleco sauce on them desire. That telobake, Tambo Nemonechina, tanging out to the Tamasero Chi Seagidua. Tengonechina, Tiloba Conorido, Tiloba, Tubarawa. In Tiduco, Tonto Guamaro, Naroba, Tonto Guamarca. Commissionba, no, Taduntin and Toyoro, Sangan of Ota, Yungamarin, or some Gurwa.
And so, and because of this, so even though we may hear about, Mahamudra, or a Lama may give us introduction to the nature of mind, or pointing out instructions on Mahamudra, but still to actually like really realize it is unlikely. Like it's difficult to really have a realization without, like, for instance,
without
having really accumulated enough merit and purified our karma. So like, even in the case of Tilopa, when he was undergoing those 12 great hardships, and these weird experiences were happening, the first time that the guy appeared and said, "Help me kill my parents," that was actually an emanation of Tilopa, but he couldn't see that as such because his karma wasn't purified, so he still wasn't able to actually see Tilopa.
Tene bena cha xawina jitsu mileke tene marbeki milare pape kambaze labde yorwa tama tambo dama na xana ko ninje samda Tilopa da marba ro samno da na ta pede kora inconceivable wa ning see maybe ning yor wa in a pa nga ordinary sense thang du go dang ban ro yor wa so ning je yang men do to ya bo chi men do sam go yor wa
and
in ta ti ko le chang go do wa
and the same sort of situation, you know, with Milarepa, we have the relationship between Marpa and Milarepa, where Marpa, you know, put Milarepa through so much hardship, where he had to build, you know, the 9 towers and really underwent just incredible hardship and difficulty. And this was out of Marpa's immense compassion. So like in the cases of these trials, you know, from these gurus, it's motivated by just immeasurably immense compassion, because that was the means, for instance, for Marpa to help Milarepa purify his karma. When we look at it in an ordinary way, from ordinary perception, it looks like actually these are terrible lamas, you know, like actually like, you know, really not helping them at all. But actually the reality was that they were really, you know, it was really out of their immense compassion to help the disciple purify their karma.
that the samdang go do kharsena the nyama yom dang me law yor wa chora marba chora kharji na the mala cheba che ge spe ko da dong ge wa la ma cha yor do khon ne be ge wa ma cha la kwa ma cha yor wa tindi nya thonyo mi semjan tindi ge wa ma cha to mo bo gi na ma cha gre ma do mel le ka le na ma cha thon ma yus chora ning ge khaya me jo kharji me chi gi yor es lab do
So actually there's a part where Dagmima, Marpa's wife, you know, who had so much, you know, she was really concerned for Milarepa and became angry at Marpa because she at one point she said to him, because Milarepa had been, you know, he had these sores like all over his back from carrying the rocks, you know, to build the towers. And she said to Marpa, like, what are you doing? How can you do this to your disciple who, like, you know, he like, I've never even seen like an animal have such terrible, you know, sores on their back. Like you have you no compassion?
Yeah, he's human being.
Like he's a human being. He's not an animal. And so then Marpa said to her, you have no idea. You have, like the level of love and compassion that I have for Milarepa, you have no clue. You have no idea how deep it really is. I'm helping him to attain awakening in this very life, to become a Buddha. There's no, I have absolutely zero self-interest, like not even a hair's worth of self-interest in how I'm, in making him work and so forth.
Back to the hard question. So as much as possible, 단단고 만져려대 맞아 뇽모베 대비 열어와 자 니마지 맞아 소남다 대비게 그 누파지 려네 지 총배 깔라더니 뭐 좋아거래 맞아 다 단단하고 있는 지금 나와라고 있는 팀배 대한 통고요 말와 나와 요요 봐라와 이나코 니마지 팀바 예스 그래서 팀바 얘는 나와 통고와 나와 그 대나긴 가서 랑셈 tmami ba wo sewati ta tanda temporary obscuration is there the yoris ina ngato ta choza as much as possible wa gewa do ningje bom parchi chogla so be nyamle chi ta nga dang be da ta ko khari thap cheta da khandra khora khari chi yo na gebe ki cho do ti gebe ki mi pa ta khale khale chi pong be kabla tene nga cho ke chi dikpa da de ba ti pa chang ro yo res ta te chang be kabla tene ko sam yu ba ba tene he de wa ri be ni bo te cha ja chen bo tene ta ngo do yor mu yo res
I have to say what he said, sorry. So yeah, like you said, we have to practice or with regard to your question, sorry, you said, we have to put a lot of effort into practice. We have to practice as much as possible because, and then one day we will experience the results of our efforts. Because we are accumulating so much merit, the power of the merit, in our practice, will clear away, those we automatically are clearing away the obscurations that prevent us from seeing that innate nature, from seeing that natural radiance and luminosity of intrinsic awareness. But it's there, but we can't recognize it because of the presence of the obscurations, because we have, the obscurations of afflictive emotions, the cognitive obscurations. And so, what helps us to remove those obscurations are these practices. We're gathering merit. It's like, and as we do, the veils become thinner and thinner, and one day they'll fully disperse, just like the clouds covering the moon. The moon is there, but when there's heavy cloud cover, we can't see the moon. But then when the clouds, sort of dissipate and then finally just part, then the moon is fully clearly there, and it's been there all along. And so this is what our path of, this is what we're doing in our path of practice, is purifying the obscurations, gathering the accumulations, and we have to dedicate ourselves to it completely, to do as much as possible, always making sure to be mindful of what is our motivation and to turn our actions of body, speech, and mind toward virtue, toward what is wholesome, to engage and to cultivate the beautiful qualities of love and compassion, to practice the 6 perfections, to recite mantra, and then gradually we will experience the fruition. We will have the, the obscurations will be purified, and we will be able to see or to directly recognize the true nature of our own mind, the Buddha nature, which has always been present.
Thank you. We'll go to Lou online. Lou, you can unmute yourself, and if you want to start your video, you're welcome to do so.
Oh, wait, can we wait one minute? He has one more thing to say. So.
Just one moment. Sorry.
Machingola, Mazo Geva Dovia, that is your Mari Samgorova, and Maris, that Geva Dogoda. Oh, the Tombari Sana, Tombari Sana, Napo Kanjam Zumudo, the missing in Katawara. Oh, Tinita Tigala, Nasotanda di Tonio, Toti, Jibo, Katanji, La Fongazo, or Charja Chimboki, Peshalo, Yo, Wachimbo, Pesha Logo Lama. The Lord, China, confusing him Chagda. Geva Sosa Magina. Tinditati, Dikotanda di Chazo Kikete con Jiberova, Dibungo Juliarova, Dibungo George and Sanji Santa Garanit and that hundred, a Chigoya Yomarwa. In a matter of some magic of la bede, a chi Sanji Kichitanchina, Dimarwa.
So, that's why we have to there really needs to be caution around these high-level teachings, because, like, for instance, in Dzogchen, when, there's this emphasis on the fruition, and that there's nothing to be done, and that we just it's the all of this talk of emptiness. But then when for a beginner, for a beginner, then maybe we feel inspired by those words, but we really need to accumulate virtue. We really need to focus on purifying the obscurations. And so to sort of have the misunderstanding, oh, there's nothing to do but to rest into awareness without actually, or feeling like there's no benefit in, really striving in virtue and abandoning non-virtue, it's all the nature of mind, then it can really derail, our practice if we fall into that way of thinking. Because, and so in that way, we should be actually cautious about even, reading like Mahamudra and Dzogchen, because you can read in kind of like conceptually have some understanding, but that can also become very confusing, to if someone who hasn't, and dangerous, to somebody who hasn't really, gathered the accumulations, purified the obscurations. It's like, because Mahamudra and Dzogchen are the fruition. They're the fruition. And so that, prior to like trying to practice that without it being experienced as fruition, can be counterproductive. Mm-hmm.
We'll go to some Zoom questions. Lou, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you for sorry, my English is not that good, but I would like to ask, what is the relationship between beyond thought and
I can,
form
unfortunately, we
and
cannot hear this.
mantras? Because mantras are words.
Lou, so sorry, we can't hear you. It's something about the connection. I'm wondering if maybe it would be better to write your question and put it in the chat, maybe? Because we can't hear anything really. It's just completely choppy. Yeah, okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry, I think that was actually not Lou. Lou, if you do want to unmute yourself, please do so now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Lorenzo, if you would like to ask your question.
Yes. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Correctly? Okay.
That's clear,
Thank you very much. First, thank you very much for all the teachings. And I wanted to ask one question regarding how we can relate to correctly to the guru and to the idam. Like, for example, during the supplication that we do during the sadhana practice or the invocation of the Yeshepa, do we have to consider that they are actually kind of external and giving guidance and like also blessings during the sadhana practice, or they are kind of internal and a guru and the visualized guru and the visualized idam, which are inseparable, are kind of a byproduct of our Buddha nature? Because I'm not able to understand if the Yeshepa come from outside or from inside. Also because Rinpoche said to consider the guru like the Dharmakaya, but how we can relate to the Dharmakaya? Are we only relating to our mind, or kind of external, or neither both? I want to ask. I don't know if the question is clear.
I think I'm understanding. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
So, the young Lapatu pena choba don't pay la young de pena lama yenada yedam yenada yena lama dang yedam yerme parawa. Tene pena ngato dena choga don't pay la young yeshe parawa. Tene yeshe ba young de chilo la yemba chilo la ke chin rengiora. Yena ngato pena de choga don be katla dene lama yang yedam de ngato chilo la yemba nangshin de na dushi che gogere nang ne yang lapar do yeshe ba chen dangwe katla dene yang jin lap tope katla chilo ne yongyo ba dawa sam gogere be yang na nang ne yongyo ba dawa sam gogere be de te se go tongyo Tene chetang de ye shepa chelo ne yon chelo kain sana nune chene de lama chuku yemba dushi che gona tene chelo la yo marawa tene de chelo la gane yon tu yore do.
Oh, yeah, this is your Chewaya Bodula.
Very good question, he said.
That theory ngato di ni yores, chetana nya yores. Da karsena na tela ngato katsan hyubana ngato hideo Ningpo yore, tele karla bu yores lavina. Tene tamsek samba seaji yores. Ina tamsek samba di ngato mutu manjol kaula, tanda ngato ta mutu manjol pala, ngato ji tensa je go yores. Tensa tela tene chi ki yu, tene yedam la ten go yores. Tele yihe samba la budwa. Tene yihe samba jian tang. Tene tamsek samba Ningpo la ten ni sumi ba cha, tele tenbo cha, ti tola tene nyamne chi mu kaula. Tene ma je tamsek samba da yihe samba yermewa. Chi ki yedam, nang ki yedam, rang ki sen, chi lama, to samba te yermewa cha go, cha no gres. Te mo cha
Yang chargon test jopo drogo yore nga tene de yerme cha ne tene rangi lama yedam rangsen.
Da tindi ti da te mo cha tindi tene da tere da mo de da maung ku fenar te ka cha da nga zo je lama thang rangsen thang yedam to de ko che ngo da che gre sa te da bo je cha ge che o da che ina yang da ti ko ma cha par do la nga zo da ti chi den go gre sa.
Okay. So he said it's both actually. So it is like there's both, you know, the external and they're both external and internal, and that's actually precisely why we have this distinction between the Samaya being and the wisdom being. So when the Samaya being is representing that which is internal, like the Buddha nature, which is actually, you know, like the true nature of the Yedam or the Lama or the Lama Yedam indivisible, and it, you know, which is actually our own the true nature of our own mind. But as long as we don't recognize it as such, then we have to rely on an external manifestation. And so that's the wisdom being. That's why then we have this ritual in the sadhana where we invite the wisdom being as the externally manifest yedam, who then comes and descends upon us, or, you know, grants their blessings and dissolves into us. And then as they dissolve into us and we become non-dual, that represents like this merging of the Samaya and the wisdom being. And then we practice, having been empowered, we practice in that way, you know, through that merging, we practice the Yidam deity, and then eventually we do realize that indivisible nature. We realize that it really only is just from within. So we realize the indivisibility of the essence of our own mind, the Yidam and the Guru, as an inseparability. But until we get to that point, we still have reliance on the external representation, the external manifestation.
Okay,
so if there's still questions, we can maybe have some time to address questions in the afternoon. And so we'll do the short dedication. On page 16, bottom of the page. By the virtues collected in the 3 times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teaching of the great Drikongpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara.
Thank you. See you.
Hello? 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 Guru?
Hi.
I want to ask about some question. Sorry.
Will you be here in the afternoon? Because we're just closing now for lunch. It's our lunch
I
break
don't
now.
know because I'm from Malaysia.
Oh, the Malaysia.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay. How to when I how to visualize when chanting the Kalachakra mantra? How to visualize
How to visualize when you're reciting the mantra for the Kala Chakra
Kalachakra?
practice? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's mentioned in the sadhana. So however it is described, during that section of the sadhana is how to visualize.
Oh, it means no need Guru tree lah. No need Guru tree also can visualize to recite with the sadhana instruction.
sorry?
It means no need the Guru instruction long lah. Just chant the mantra with the visualization according to the sadhana.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So
yeah, if you can, then good. If you're not, you would not have to do it.
So I don't know that we heard you correctly. It sounds like he heard one thing and I heard something else. But it sounds like what you're asking, or what he seemed to think you were asking, is do you have to recite the sadhana and then do the mantra recitation with the sadhana? He said if you can, that's great. But you don't have to. Also, you can just recite the mantra without the sadhana.
It means recite the sadhana. It means with the visualization. With the visualization, it means the chanting the mantra current through the Vaja and then to the lotus and then to the mother mouse and then
Yeah.
come
Okay.
back.
So I get it. Yeah.
다 티니 지난 디그레 티니 ngazo de yorwa ngazo hiela tong 티니 심피안 담지래 다 참 나오네 통나 디그레 칸에 통 심피안 담지래 카효 심피안 담지 팬도지 티니 심피안 담지 초 양ngazo 히에 효 ngazo 닝가라 템바 지난 디그레
So that's right. That's one way to visualize the mantra circling between the yap and the yum. That's one version of meditating on the mantra. You can also have the mantra traveling up and exiting out of the deity's either nose, nostril, or mouth, and then entering into the all sentient beings, the nostril of all sentient beings, and then traveling back and circling between you and all sentient beings. In that way, that's another method of visualization.
So benefit sentient beings.
And the idea is that you're benefiting sentient beings.
Oh. And the mantra current is what color?
Kado karere. Kado. He's actually not sure. So he's used to practicing chakra samvara, which is blue, the mantra. In the case of Kala chakra,
not exactly not sure.
He's not exactly sure what color it is. Does anyone know? Yeah. But it's probably mentioned in the sadhana, the color.
I see in the sadhana no color, only say recite the mantra with the mantra current, no color described in the sadhana.
There's no color mentioned in the sadhana. Can you look in that? Yeah, I don't have it. Yeah. But usually the color of the mantra, is the color of the deity. So it looks like it may be blue. Here, let's see. No, that's the completion's sake. You're praise. Kapag yun, Kim sa dampo din natin. Mantra recitation, yeah. Yeah, kato mendo. Kato yung marawa. Kato mambo yu chiriwa.
다 감동되는 메리다. 이바나 요시게다 저런 데 감동 몸으로 몸 되게
So he thinks, you know, he can look into it in the more extensive sadhana. Definitely, it's mentioned there, but if you meditate on it as you can visualize it as the color blue.
Oh, thank you. Let's say if I in Malaysia, I have missed. If I missed next session, can I rewatch to get the transmission?
Yes, the recordings will be available, and you can watch.
It means the recording is. It means I rewatch the recording equal to receive the real transmission. The long.
Can you receive the transmission through the recording?
Can you receive the transmission on the recording? Well, he gave the transmission yesterday. Oh, and that was probably in the afternoon. So the long kona, the long tokerebe, pena recording nina.
데 작을 상관을 모두
The color chakra.
칼라 잡으려고 그래.
Yeah, karsang chirang nang yorowa.
마음에 될 칼라 잡으려고 그래. 가서 배치 취하려고 그래.
The color chakra love yorowa kain sina karsang lung nang yorowa hinang kong Malaysia yamba ki jimsin latini koyo samarawa. Then the recording nina. Yes, you can. If you listen to the recording, then you can receive the transmission that way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.